We are officially on now. So thank you, Kalamazoo, and thank you to the Public Media Network. I have my very great friend, my brother from another mother and father,
Yes.
Mr. Chris Jordan,
Thank
here
you.
from South Haven, Michigan.
Yep.
Oh man, Chris, we go way, way back, like
It's
four
been a minute.
flats on a Cadillac, like a good 10 years.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, no, it is
Yeah.
because I'll give my background is that you were my hiring manager when I worked for my first corporate Fortune 500 corporation in the financial insurance industry. You
Yes.
actually said yes and gave your girl a chance.
Still don't know what went wrong.
I know both of
Yeah.
us aren't there anymore,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're the common denominator. We're good.
Probably. No, it was good. Yeah.
Yes, and we got a chance to just you're a great person, a great man, and again, thank you
Thank you.
for my start in being here on today. So the reason why I asked you to come is because you are in a new position
Yep.
and you want to tell Kalamazoo and those places around the beautiful things that you're doing for your local city of South Haven. What's special?
It's I'm in the vacation rental business, so helping owners, because we don't own the homes that I manage, but helping owners decide if an investment is a good option or not in certain areas. So, it's obviously West Michigan in general is uh, a very touristy area.
Mm.
So people go there. South Haven, for example, has 5,000, around 5,000 population for wintertime, but summer that grows to about 50,000. So there's
Oh,
that many tourists that come into town and everything. So it's helping owners really decide if it's a good idea to buy a certain place or not. So that's where a lot of my work comes in, is they come to me as an investor and I help them find places, or, it's going to be a good return,
mhm.
or not a good return, and let them know. So, yeah.
So that second home. So okay, I got my first home. I got the kitchen that I want. I got the 4 bedrooms, 5 baths, and I got the yard for me and the family. Now I'm looking to do or consider, coming to South Haven or in the Michigan area. Like how far do you guys expand out as far as your jurisdiction or your
Uh,
territory?
we have close to 300 properties. So we are all the way down, I think, as far south as Edwardsburg, which is on the Indiana Michigan line,
Okay.
all the way up to Ludington.
Uh,
And stuff, we have stuff here in Kalamazoo, even inland. It doesn't have to be on Lake Michigan. Typically, for a vacation rental, if it's something that grabs someone's attention, you know, the lake is always nice. Having an amenity that's going to draw people in will help, but it's not always the deciding factor on a good rental either. So,
Well, I'm thinking about the lake. So let's
yes.
let's talk me through if I'm having this conversation. I need to have do I need money? Do I need, savings? Like what will be my first step if I'm looking to jump into owning a vacation rental home? And how does that look?
There's a couple things.
Okay.
You have to, I mean, budget's always number one, and you have to figure out, if you're not paying cash for a home, which most people can't. You're talking about, if it's a vacation home on the lake, you could run into millions of dollars, right? So it's usually people are pulling a mortgage out. So I tell owners, it's one of those things, you got to figure out what a mortgage is going to be and what you have to make, because here in Michigan, you're not going to get really rich off of a vacation rental
Oh,
because the season's not long enough.
okay.
You know, if you're looking for something that maybe you want to buy a home that you're going to retire at some point, and you just wanted to offset the bills you have while you're running the vacation rental, it'll do that for sure. So a lot of that is that conversation I have with that owner initially. Like, what are you looking for this? What are you looking to do with this? Some people, if they inherit money or something like that, and they have to find something to do with that money, real
Oh,
estate is always one of the top things to invest in, because you're very rarely ever going to lose money on it. So looking for something like that they can pay cash for, that's just going to make them a little money and stuff, and then decide to sell it 5 or 10 years down the road and make a huge profit. So, there's a lot of things you take into consideration when you're looking for a place.
so the difference between like a vacation rental home and like maybe a rental property, like what would say the difference between those two mentalities when you're looking at buying that second home?
So you talk about a rental property, like renting it out long term
Yeah.
to, you know, the long term rentals are typically going to be something that, you're talking about a monthly amount of, and whatever the market is, you could
Mhm.
be anywhere from 1,000 to $4,000 a month, right? Whereas your vacation rental, you're going to gain a lot more on a weekly basis. So, the vacation rentals typically are going to be nicer homes that are
Mm,
on a lake and so forth. That some of them, the ones we manage will generate about $43,000 a week to rent it.
okay.
Now normal people can't afford that, but some people can. And so, when you're looking at places like that, uh, yeah, you're making a lot of money, but you gotta also assume that that mortgage on that place is very high if it's making that kind of money. So, you know, uh, the difference is you can guarantee basically if you own a long-term rental in the area that this is my budget. I know I'm going to make $1,500 a month for an example on this, and I can calculate to the penny what I'm going to make on that at the end of the year. Vacations are a little different. With us, with all the properties that we know around what the occupancy is and everything else, but we can never dictate what the market's going to do for one month to the next or even a year. So it's always hard to pinpoint that. I do, I use a lot of tools, a lot of AI stuff, and a lot of different tools that are online that I can do for projections and kind of figure out. And I'm usually very close at figuring out what that number is, but it's never a guarantee,
Mm.
but the long term rental is. It's just the return on your money sometimes won't be as high on that long term rental. Year over year, after if you have it for 20 years and you have a rental in there, yeah, it's going to do well. But short term rentals is usually the way you're going to go for making the most money.
Plus, when you're looking at the vacation rental, it's the maintenance of that property.
Absolutely. And the good thing about having a vacation rental is you have eyes on that property every week. Most vacation rentals are 7 days, maybe five, right? So at the end of that turnover period of that person leaving, you have the cleaning staff in there or the people doing the inspecting. And so they have eyes on that property at all times. When you have somebody that's staying in a home for 2, 3, 4 years, you don't know what kind of damage they're doing to that place in that time frame until they leave. So that's another advantage to it. And having a company that actually manages that property that will handle the maintenance and the cleaning and everything like that helps a lot as well.
And you also do the bookings.
Yeah, we handle all the bookings, the management for that, the communication, which is a big one. I mean,
Oh.
if the guest has an issue at 11 o'clock at night, somebody's got to be ready to make that call and help them out. So a lot of that stuff comes into play.
What's the difference between when you look at like an Airbnb versus, vacation rentals? Like, or are they one and the same?
They're the same.
Okay.
Airbnb is basically when somebody buys a property that they want to rent out, they have to have a source to rent it through.
Okay.
Airbnb is a marketing company that you can rent through. Verbo's another one, booking.com. There's a bunch of them. So you have to have that source to be able to have people book that reservation. Unless you just know a million people that in your Rolodex that they can just call you and book it independently, then you're always going to need those sources. I tell a lot of owners that typically when you are brand new in the business, Airbnb and Vrbo are going to be your major players. And
Mhm.
then, but your goal is to get them through that source. And then if they love the house, they're going to come back and make that their home every year for a week at a time. And then they don't have to go through Airbnb and Vrbo. They can go direct through the company or the owner at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if a family is looking to come and rent, what are some things that they should kind of consider when they're looking on a site?
Usually the first thing is always going to be budget.
Okay.
Everybody's got a certain budget they're working with. The occupancy.
Okay.
So how many people are coming?
Hmm.
What's important to them. The great thing about Airbnb and Vrbo and so forth is you can search by filter. So your idea of having a fun time on the lake may be different than mine. Yours may be I want a hot tub right on the lake so I can watch the sunset, and then other people are like I want to be close to a golf course. So those are all things you can filter out on a site to see what's going to fit you the best. But usually budget is always going to be the number one thing,
Budget in location.
and location for sure.
Yeah, because I at one point in time I was able to work with you and got a chance to see some of your beautiful properties.
Yes.
And you were like, go look in all of them, like just
Yeah.
sending me on missions, like just go check this property out. And so you guys were like on the Black River. Isn't that, what's the name? Isn't it the Black River?
Black River comes into South Haven. Yes.
Okay, so talk to me about some of those properties along there and like the beds, because per bed per room is a little bit different when you have the vacation luxury.
It is, and to maximize your experience, and I'm just going to use a standard 3 bedroom house,
Okay.
right? You want 2 rooms set up for adults, so kings in the beds or queens,
Okay.
in the bedrooms, and then a room that's set up for kids,
Mm-hmm.
bunk beds. You want to maximize occupancy. You also have to know the area you're going to because every city, every township has certain ordinances regarding short-term rentals. I
Mm-hmm.
won't say every one of them, a large percentage of them. So you have to know before you buy a vacation property or before you buy a home thinking oh, you're going to turn that into a vacation property, know the local ordinances. Because, for example, in South Haven, You can't go buy a house in South Haven right now and turn it into a vacation rental because they're capped out on what they can allow.
Mm,
Now you can go outside of South Haven into the townships and so forth and do that, but so you always have to know ahead of time. Typically, when you're looking for a home, the realtor you choose will know the regulations and will let you know that, but always do your own work as well,
okay.
for sure. But yeah, it's anything with water views is always going to be one at the top of the list of properties that people are looking for.
And then what if someone has mobility limitations?
So there is actually a filter on Airbnb and Verbo that says, for handicap accessible.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of places that have that. There's actually government funding out there for people who own those homes that can actually get. And I don't remember the number. It was sent to me last year, and we had a few owners that took advantage of it. That the government will assist you in building like a ramp
Okay.
and stuff like that. So that's always a good idea to have because as
Hmm.
everybody's getting older, the mobility is a big issue. So one of the big things that we've seen with people is when they look for homes is with grandma and grandpa coming, is there at least a main level bedroom?
Hmm.
And that's hard. Some of the lakefront places that you get, all the bedrooms are upstairs, so that kind of limits grandma and grandpa. So that would be one of the things too if you're looking to make a purchase on a home for a short term rental. At least one main level bedroom for grandma and grandpa
And a bathroom.
and a bathroom for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm. So one of the other things that when we were looking at the vacation rental properties when we were out there was pets and the difference between a service pet and just fluffy. You want to
Yes.
talk about that a little bit?
So a couple things. Yeah. I mean, obviously you can't deny somebody with a service animal.
Okay.
Some companies will require proof, obviously,
Oh,
and certain
okay.
people will require proof that it is a service animal. But some homes just allow pets.
Okay.
Now the one thing is, the number one search criteria in all the country in filters is a pet friendly home.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of started back in COVID. Back then, it wasn't too much of a big deal, but when COVID happened, people realized they could work from home. So they're taking more vacations, but less time at each spot, and they want to travel with their pets. So
Okay.
a home that is pet friendly, that's going to be the number one search criteria on all platforms. Number two is hot tub,
Okay.
believe it or not. So, if you have a home that is pet friendly and a hot tub, you're already going to be at the top of most search engines that are out there for that.
What about a pool?
Pool doesn't seem to be quite as big. I mean, yeah, it's a great luxury.
Okay.
But I think you take in consideration the amount of people that have pools are very limited compared to how many will allow a pet or a hot tub because a pool is a very big expense. Obviously, it will help, but when you're talking about the return on investment to get a good in-ground pool, you're talking 30, $40,000 sometimes. So how long is it going to take you to make that money up? To offset that. So it's not a huge necessity, especially like where we're at in Western Michigan, because you have the beaches, and that's where people can go and swim and stuff, things like that. But for some areas, yeah, I could see where it'd be a big help for sure.
And then the maintenance of the pool, because that was a
It's another
whole
thing.
yeah, you wanna talk about that? Just as far as if people are considering a pool or a hot tub because both of those
Yes.
are water.
I would definitely say we have quite a few properties that have pools and hot tubs. And one of the things is always have them sign a waiver,
Okay.
the guest, because you don't want to be liable, and also post signs up like, hey, you're responsible, all this stuff. But yeah, the cleaning and maintenance of it, hot tub obviously you want cleaned every week, between
Mm,
between guests because people get in there with sand or lotion on them and stuff like that. Pools every week, most of them have the automatic skimmers and they'll do pretty well. But it's a good idea to have somebody come once a week and just check the levels, make sure the chemicals and stuff are good. What we do is this could be a very big expense to the owners to have to pay somebody to come and clean it every week. So sometimes you can actually offset that charge to the guest as part of the fees.
okay.
So all in how you set it up. But yeah, that's definitely something that takes a lot of work is maintaining the hot tubs and
So you got an empty vacation rental home. Now, how do you decorate it? Because that's the difference between a long-term rental and a vacation rental too, is that it's already fully furnished with pots and pans and
yes. When you're talking about decorating, less is more.
Oh,
People don't
okay.
like clutter.
Okay.
So you want these people to come into the property and treat it like their own for that week that they're there, right? So uh limit things. Yeah, you can have good artwork on the walls and stuff like that, but tell everybody keep the clutter to a bare minimum. You don't want anything on cabinets or anything like that. As far as beds, that's always one of the tough ones because you may love a soft bed, I may love a hard bed. So you're never going to make 100% of the people happy. If you're planning on staying at that home at any point for yourself, I tell owners do what makes you happy. That's your home. Everybody else can deal with it.
Okay.
And same with we have some homes that are one of our homes are owners as an artist. So she wants to post her artwork everywhere where people have an opportunity to scan it on a barcode and buy it. So that's what
Mm,
she's known for. So hers has got all that there and people love it. Other people really care less about that. It's just
mhm.
they want to be able to sleep in a good bed, have a nice couch to sit on, TVs that work, and
Mhm.
accessibility to whatever they need to do, walking or whatever. So yeah.
Fire pit.
Fire pits, that's usually a must in Michigan.
Is it?
Yeah, because it's even in summertime, it still gets kinda cool at night. People like to sit around, have a glass of wine or something around a fire. Even in summer when it gets down in the 50s at night, it's a perfect opportunity. So, yeah, that's definitely one of the things that would be, probably first on your list to make sure you have a good fire pit.
First.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So what are your busy seasons like? When is it slower because you might save a couple dollars if you're trying to vacation versus hey, don't come this week unless you are ready to pay.
Well, if you wanna pay for July 4th
Okay.
week, that's obviously the big one. Labor Day is always a big one too, but you typically have 3 seasons in Michigan,
Okay.
for vacation rentals anyway.
Okay.
You have your peak, which is typically right when school lets out,
Mm-hmm.
so mid-June-ish,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up to mid-August when school gets back in. Then that's your peak season. Then you have what you call your shoulder season, which are the months right before and right after that. That's still the weather's still good, so people can still come, but it's not going to be longer as long stays. It's usually somebody for a long weekend because kids are still in school. And then you have your winter season. Not a whole lot goes on in the wintertime. Now, where we're at in West Michigan, there are a couple of resort communities that have indoor outdoor pools. So
Mm.
those will still rent in the wintertime where people say, hey, it's cheap. The rates go way down in the wintertime and I can still swim. Not going to the beach, obviously, but I could still swim and enjoy my time out there for long breaks with the kids if they're Christmas break or something like that.
And you were mentioning like the skiing and
Ski
ski.
resorts, yeah, that's big around here. There's within South Haven, there's 3 of them within 45 minutes. So skiing resort, snowmobiling, there's trails, Van Buren Trail, Calhaven Trail that goes around there. The hard thing about I guess planning for that is you never know what the weather's going to be. So you're not going to get a lot of people that book a month ahead of time to do a snowmobile tour. There may be no snow February 2nd, right? So those are going to be a lot of the last minute vacations. So that's another thing too, is allow your calendar to accept last minute bookings. So that means you have to be ready at all times. If
Mm.
if you're trying to manage your property and you live in Chicago and your property's here and you can't get out here in a day, you're probably going to miss a lot of those bookings that would come in on last minuters when they see we're getting a hit with 12 inches of snow and someone was coming to ride a four wheel
So
or a
what
snowmobile. Yeah.
so what if it's like a cancellation? Like how does that work?
So
Because of
cancellations,
weather or something like
there's
that.
options. You could do what they call strict cancellation policy or easy. The strict cancellation policy says once you book it and you've paid, all the payments have to be due within 60 days of arrival, and then you will not get a refund unless you purchase traveler's insurance.
Okay.
Traveler's insurance is cheap, 7%.
Okay.
So I always recommend people doing that, and you cancel all up to the day of arrival.
Mm.
But then you can have the not so hard regulations where you could say, I'll let somebody cancel up to a week before. But when you're dependent on money coming in and somebody cancels a week before, the odds of you booking that week now, a week ahead of time, is very slim.
Mhm.
So you got to be careful with that.
Do you have like 2-day rentals? You said
Some
weekends.
2 days in the wintertime when it's very slow, we will allow that. Typically, summer, you're going to be depending on the house, the smaller places will allow a 3 or 4 day. The bigger homes are typically always 7.
Mm.
We have a system set in place where we start out at 7, but as we get closer to the date, if there's open dates, it'll automatically lower that nightly minimum down to 5 and then 3 to try to get days filled in. So there's ways around that. If you're only managing one property, it's easy for you to sit and stare at it all day long and know what you got to do. So when you have 300, you can't sit and look at the computer all day long. So you have to have software in place that manages that for you.
Do people have multiple vacation rentals
Yeah,
as
some of them do.
homes?
Some of them do, yeah.
What is that like?
It's what's it like for the owners?
Yeah, what's it like for the owners? What is it like for you on your side of the business?
It's easy for us because if we have, say, one owner that owns 3 or 4 properties, we kinda know what to expect from that owner and what they expect from us.
Mm.
If it's an individual owner trying to manage the 3 or 4 that they own it themselves, it starts getting hard. One person can manage one property pretty easily, sometimes 2. If you're local, you definitely need to have a maintenance guy on staff I won't say on staff, but on call 24 hours a day that can handle any of that stuff. A good cleaner that you're going to depend on to do all that stuff. If you start getting more than 2 or 3 properties, I advise having a company that's got their eyes on that all times because it's gonna wear you out for sure. And when people are on vacation, they spend a lot of money for that property. They demand a lot. You're in the business for a little while. If everything's not exactly right, you're going to hear about it. And so having that company as um, that middle person that handles all that, so the owner doesn't have to deal with it, is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember just the calls that come in, just the randomest thing. I mean, think the most random thing I got was, unfortunately, a baby deer had got hit
Yeah.
by a car, and the mother was like there. So the family was like, "We don't know if we can go outside. Mom's
Yeah.
out there. This must have happened overnight." And
Yeah.
maintenance came and removed it, and
Yeah.
she finally left too. But that was a situation, and like everybody's
I get
afraid
it.
because mom was like, "Hold on."
No, I get it. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, I'm sure I told you the story. We had somebody came in and got a vacation rental, and they called and they're like, hey, we got a problem. There's bugs. And my first reaction is bed bugs, right? Oh no, what's going on? Well, come to find out, they were at the public beach and they were getting bit by those flying or the biting flies.
Oh.
And they told me that. I said, okay. I said, maybe throw some off on or something. And she's like, I don't think you understand. This is ruining my vacation. I want a full refund.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
We can't control what's going on out there. But so yeah, we get all kinds of crazy calls all the time.
Yeah, it was crazy cause it was one time that one of the rooms is locked. Being that this is your home, you can lock off
Yeah.
certain doors in certain rooms that people can't go in, so that when you come in town from, like you say, from another city or whatever,
Yep.
you already got clothes and your own personal things. And in that particular room, there was smoke from the ceiling fan.
Mm.
And the fire department, you were not there. I think I had to call you, like, wait a minute, the
Yeah.
fire department has to
I
come.
do remember that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But you brought up another thing too. That is something very important when you are talking about vacation rentals. Is the owner should always have one area. It doesn't have to be a full room,
Okay.
a closet or something locked up that the guests don't have access to. Only the owner does, or maybe a cleaner that they can put their personal stuff in and things like that. You definitely want that, because if you go stock up on toilet paper, for an example,
Mm-hmm.
and you leave 30 rolls sitting out there for them to use, they're going to use all 30 of them. They're going to take them with them.
Okay.
Now you're without. So you got to be able to lock that stuff up so people don't have access to it.
Okay. And we have mentioned like pots and pans, barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal. All of your property provide a
Yep.
barbecue.
Yes.
Because some of them are houses, some of them are in condos, and some of them are like in duplexes and different things like that. So can you talk about like the difference in the properties and how they come?
So yeah, you have to be careful with that too. Houses, obviously, that's your own thing. You don't have to deal with that stuff. But if you are on a condo, there's
Mm.
lot of legal things and a lot of the city ordinances that won't allow you to have a grill on a deck, obviously for fire purposes. So most communities will have community pit out there that you can
Mhm.
use for stuff like that. But yeah, definitely a grill is a very big deal to have. Definitely put signs. We had an instance once last year where somebody had to grill, and the owner had it out in a normal place, but for some reason it was maybe a little rainy, so the guests brought the grill up and put it right up against the house so it'd be easy for them to grill. Well, it melted the siding.
Oh, oh.
So always having signs up like "Do not move the grill. This is where it's supposed to go." And stuff like that. I would assume that most people would be. Uh, that's like an obvious thing to me. Like if I'm grilling, don't put this up against vinyl siding. But not everybody uses common sense, I guess. But so you always got to protect, and you got to make sure everything is labeled, signs telling everybody what your rules and regulations are, because they'll try to abuse them.
Well, and I remember even as far as the temperature, like that was I probably got more phone calls about how do you turn the air on? How do
Yeah.
you turn the air off?
Yeah, it's good to have a little welcome book to guests and show them, like, especially if you have one of the newer kind of thermostats that you have to hit this and do that to make it work. Let them know how to use that.
The remote controls too.
Remote
The
controls is
TV.
another one. Well, now today with smart TVs, and
Okay.
some of the older people don't understand, if you don't have cable, how TVs work. So being able to show people like hit this button to get on this app or whatever, all that's very important.
Do you all provide that info? Do you all provide one of those, or you just recommend them?
So us as a company, we do. When we sign up an owner for a property, we have them their sheets that they have to fill out. So they fill all this stuff out, then we will make the signs for you with the information you're giving us. For example, a TV. I'm somewhat technical savvy, technological. Is
I'm
that how
just
you
gonna,
words?
we're just gonna
I'm
roll with it.
savvy,
Yeah. Okay.
but
You savvy.
yeah, I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
savvy.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about certain TVs, some of them can be weird. So send us the directions on how things work. We will make the sign, we'll make the book and stuff like that.
So if we'll kind of like go back, since we're go back to the owner, me looking to buy this home. I remember there was one of the times we were looking at a property that someone was consider buying. It was completely empty. They haven't made any payments down or and none of that. Can you kind of talk to the process if I am looking to purchase that home now, before everybody's looking to get in there? What's that experience like, when you're like, hey, Arlena, uh, I got an owner looking to buy this house. What do you think about it?
So the first thing I tell owners is, let's pull an ROI. What do you expect to get on a return of investment for what you have?
Okay.
If they tell me they're looking straight as a investment and they want to make a lot of money on it, then I'm saying, okay, before you ever make an offer on a home, if you find something that catches your attention, send me the address, send me the listing, and let me run a comp on it to
Okay.
kind of tell you what you can expect from there. If the numbers make sense at that point, then that's where I will typically tell an owner, like, let me come in and meet you there. And I can tell you what you're going to have to do on a vacation site to maximize your opportunity. Because when I can run a comp, I'm just basically running off the shell of the house,
Mm-hmm.
the location, stuff like that. But how now where I come in is how can we get that number up?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a hot tub? Isn't it making it pet friendly? I had one homeowner that I told them they wanted to be the ultimate dog vacation place. So they added a dog park to their home,
Okay.
like a fenced in area with little dog jumps and all that stuff, and it was a huge hit. So little things like that can enhance the customer or the guest experience, the better. But it takes me and sitting down with that owner and talking about these things after I've seen the house and going there with them. So sometimes it's kind of hard when the house isn't bought yet. I'm only making my judgment based on what I see, and without going into the home, sometimes it's kind of hard. But it's always going to start with that conversation. You
Like,
know,
when it comes to like construction wise, there's a fireplace, or you're like, hey, we need to upgrade this fireplace, or you're like, look, keep the fireplace the way it is. We need to put granite in here, or will, good Menards, pretty
you
clean,
know,
take care of the business.
if it's strictly an income based property, then I tell them you want to keep things as cheap as possible, but looks good.
Okay.
So I would never suggest granite if they're redoing everything because it's very expensive. Now, if their plan is, hey, I want to rent this out for 3 years and then move into it, then I'm going to tell them by all means do everything that's going to make you happy that you want to live in at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make everything else work around it. But if it's just strictly just for money part of it, then I will usually keep the spending low, but with the return high on what they can do.
Like, I've been seeing like these TV shows, and they like talk about these vacation things, and they're like, you can rent this vacation property and it'll pay for itself. How realistic is that?
Very.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, once again, here in Michigan, are you going to make a ton of money off of a rental property? Probably not, just because the season's short enough, but it will offset the cost of it. You're going to be able to maintain the cost of whatever that house is. So the perfect example is that strictly for a investment opportunity down the future, like you're like, if I buy a house for 200,000 today, I
Mm-hmm.
know that with
Mm-hmm.
the market the way it is, even if I did nothing to it, it's going to be worth 350 in 5 years.
Okay.
So, if you're looking just to offset any kind of bills you have, the mortgage, the insurance, stuff like that right now, yes, you're always going to be able to do that and probably put some money in your pocket for a future turnover and selling the house and making a ton of money on it at that time. It's always good when you do sell a property, it's got an extensive background of rental history
Mm.
for the next investor. Because if they're like, I want to know what this will do, I have proof right here, 4 years in a row, this is what I got. So those are a lot easier to sell than something that's fresh that has never been rented.
Well, speaking of that, so now selling the vacation rental, like, can we talk about that a little bit? What that experience is like for, or can be
Yeah,
considered?
very easy. I mean, the housing market in general is in West Michigan mainly. Houses I think are on the market an average of 40 days
Okay.
before they sell. In South Haven, and I'm talking about that place because I know it very well, but there's regulations in place that you can't buy a house right now and make it a rental. However, if there's a certificate attached to that property, that certificate follows the property. So if you want to buy a home and it's already rented or rentable, you can maintain that. So a lot of that goes into play too. Now, if you go outside of the city into the township stuff like that, there's not a whole lot of regulations regarding that. But most people, if they come to South Haven, they want to be able to park and then walk everywhere.
Yeah.
And so South Haven City is a very sought after area. But yeah,
Talk about South Haven a little bit. What makes South Haven special?
the one thing that I think sets it aside from everybody else is, like I said, you park and walk.
Okay.
You don't you can walk to the beaches, you can walk to town, you can go to the clubs, stuff like that, and the restaurants, and Everything is right there within walking distance. Saugatuck, for an example, great town. I love the town itself, but to get to the beaches, you have to drive.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
South Haven is very rare in that fact that you can basically park and bike or walk, or that you can rent golf carts, you can rent bikes, and a lot of our homes will actually provide golf carts or bikes. So you have that access to be able to just never get in your car again.
What's the difference between North Beach and South Beach?
South Beach, I would say, is a little bit more of the family-oriented beach.
Okay.
It's, there's a playground there. There's a small playground on North Beach too, but, South Beach, that's the one where you can walk to from town. So you just walk right down in there and you're there. They've got a splash pad there, which is shaped like a ship. So it's kind of neat. You have, all that little shop right there that you can get snacks and stuff like that. North Beach tends to be, and I'm not going to label it as only this, but tends to be more of the party beach.
Oh,
That's where a lot of the kids from college will come to and hang out there, and they got beach volleyball set up out there, and they also got a snack shack. You can rent, kayaks and boogie boards, stuff like that. So huge beach, and I'm not saying no kids are over there, but it's more of the adult side of South Haven.
so you can throw a party?
Well, you got to be careful with that.
Okay, talk
Obviously,
about
no
it.
no alcohol on the beaches
Okay.
at all. So it depends on what kind of party you're talking about,
Okay,
Arlena.
so
But it's yeah, no alcohol on the beaches at all. But you can have fun, and you can have fun at either beach. Don't get me wrong. But the one on North Beach seems to be where the younger generation of people want to go and just party, but legally.
So if I have one of those on North Beach and cause my favorite property that was there was that one that like sits, like you can like shake hands with the people as they're like walking by,
Yeah,
like, so you can drink on your own patio when you're there. Not that I drink or anything like that, but I just see that at that time people are drinking, but they're not technically on the beach.
you can. Yes, and South Haven is now a social district, so you can actually walk around downtown with drinks in your hand.
Oh,
But you can't openly have bottles of beer or alcohol at the beach in your cooler you're taking out drinking. So, and then plus the social district stops before you get to the beach anyway. So essentially you can't have alcohol out there anyway. But yeah, you can walk around with it and stuff like that. You can drink on your patio, your deck and stuff like that. You just not at the beach.
so looking at, since I mentioned parties, weddings,
Mhm.
or we said 4th of July, like special occasions, birthdays, and different things like that. Like those seem to be like really great times because there was like a lot of weddings or wedding parties.
Every
Like,
week there's some kind of wedding going on the beach, which,
okay.
it's a great spot. You're talking about some of the best sunsets in the country are right here at Lake Michigan, So, obviously, when you're planning a wedding, you gotta depend on that sunset's gonna be there at that time, but,
Mm.
it seems like every week there's multiple weddings out at the beaches, and there's companies that you can hire to say, "I want a beach wedding," and they will come and set everything up with a white runner that goes down the beach to sand and do all that stuff for you, so there's plenty of places. There's actually a person that does yoga classes on the beach, so you'll hire her, and she'll come set all the mats up and get yoga ready, and there's places that you can hire to does picnics at the beach for you and set all that stuff up for you, so the beach is a very good area. It's very cool, and South Haven has some of the best ones for sure.
So thinking about even like going back kind of to that wedding, just because I know tends to be, because I was, once I left from working with you, I went into the bridal industry.
Okay.
And so that was a really big thing, is like our brides are trying to prepare for things, but then thinking about how do I host the family? Like
Yeah.
sometimes like we got husbands and wives, I'm just using that as an example, when we're trying to merge our families together to accommodate um maybe a
Yes.
large amount of guests.
That's a tricky one because depending on the city, South Haven is very strict on no parties allowed at a house.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Now, so it's all going to be in what is your definition of a party.
I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're having a wedding party, not a party, a wedding party, the people,
Festivities.
yes, and you're there just to eat dinner. That's not really a party, but if you're having a big thing set up outside and there's music going, quiet time is a certain time, but the city strictly prohibits you renting a house and using that as a get together for everybody else coming to hang out and party.
Where can you do that at?
You know, out of town, the regulations are a lot less strict. But you could also, one of the big things is depending on where you're at, if you're getting married, the cost of a venue for a wedding and stuff, it can get very expensive, as you probably know. So a lot of people, we have one home that's in Saugatuck that allows events because it's not in the city. It's kind of out, but it's got beach views. It's got all the stuff, and the house sleeps 25 people.
Nice.
So, and you're thinking, even though the cost of the house may be 25 or 30,000 a week, That's for a week instead of me spending 30,000 on one night for a wedding venue. You can use stuff like this and set everything up. So there are places that will allow that. You just have to ask, because most people won't say no weddings here, but you could send a message through Airbnb Verbo or their direct website and say, this is what I'm thinking. Do you have anything that will work for me? And then they'll usually be able to help you out, find
And I
something.
know you'll find something for somebody if they give you enough heads up. Like, what type of heads up time would you recommend somebody when they're looking at doing anything? Like, if not
Yeah.
just a wedding, but like how much time in advance before
It
you're
depends on the time of year.
okay.
If it's somebody looking for a summer wedding or event,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to need close to a year probably to
Yeah.
guarantee you're going to get a spot. If
Yeah.
it's something that's in April or May that it's a little bit easier, you don't need much time.
Okay.
And you know me, if somebody tells me, if they come to me and they say, this is what I'm looking for, I'm a chaser. I love, let me find it. You tell me it's impossible, I'm going to show you how it's possible.
Yeah.
So you give me enough time, I'm going to find something for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
I that I do know
Yeah.
about you. You're gonna get it done.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, you will.
Yep.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want us to know about, or you want to educate me or enlighten the community, taking all of these things into consideration?
I would say first and foremost, just know the regulations.
Okay.
That's the first thing I always have that conversation with owners is or potential owners is before you buy any investment property, know what you can and can't do.
Mm.
That's first. And then talk to a professional that knows the area, that knows what kind of return you're going to get, and so forth. And that's pretty much the first two things. And then
Where do you get that information at?
uh, you know, talk your agent should know most of that stuff, but
Okay.
I always tell people you want to know firsthand as well. So you can go to the website. If you know this property you're looking for is in South Haven proper, then just go to South Haven's website and just Google, what city South Haven. It'll usually southaven.gov or whatever.
Okay.
If it's a township,
Uh-huh.
same thing. They will all have their own websites, and in that website, sometimes you have to dig a little bit. They're not going to be obvious, but go to departments and then regulations or anything like that. You'll be able to find it, and most of them have a written thing about what are the rules and regulations of a rental, and it'll tell you. And most of them, occupancy only at 12. That's a big one now, is you can't have any more 12 occupants.
Wow.
Only one per week, for an example. You can only one rental per week.
Wow.
That's not every one, but there's a couple of them that are like that. So just knowing your limits.
So that speaking of like that is looking at boat slips, for people who may be coming from Chicago or some of the other areas, like, I'm just going to, instead of drive, I'm just going to ride my boat over across to my property.
Yeah.
How is that looking like? Or talk to us about the
Boat slips are tough.
Okay.
That's one of those things that most of the boat slips, at least in South Haven, those are the ones I really kind of know. Most of them are owned by somebody. Now they will set up a rental. We don't deal with the boat slips ourselves, but there's a way to find it. I would always say, always find the local conventions bureau, visitors and conventions bureau.
Okay.
And if you tell them flat out, I'm looking for a boat slip that will handle a 24-foot boat, for an example, they will get you in the hands of the right people that can help you find one.
Okay.
Some places will allow hourly rentals just to tie up and stuff like that. South
Mm.
Haven has a few of those, and if you're pulling up to a restaurant, as long as you're going into that restaurant and eating, you can pull it up there for free. But most of those are set aside for like dinghy boats, not like big yachts.
Okay.
So that's another thing you got to be careful with bringing a boat over, is knowing what you can and can't do.
And like you said, that's not really your thing with the yachts.
I wish. I
It's
wish it was my thing as
it's
a
on
yacht.
it's on
Yeah.
next on the list.
Yeah, that's next. I'm working.
I know it.
I'm working.
You with your boats.
Yes, I'd love it.
So, okay. We got the boats, we got the bikes, we've got the pizza and the restaurants. What are your favorites
In South Haven?
in South Haven? I will take you to one of mine in Kalamazoo. We'll go over to Papa Pete's in Kalamazoo here after we
Okay.
leave.
I would say my favorite place to eat is the Lodge.
Where's that one at?
It's right on the outside of town, and mainly because it's where the locals go. But it's
The
the
locals.
food is fantastic. But if you're looking for the ultimate South Haven, I got to do this one there. Clementine's is always up there. That's a famous place. But if you're there in the summertime, it's going to be a couple-hour wait.
Yeah,
There
thank you for
are,
saying
yeah,
that.
they
Yeah.
are. There are great restaurants in town. You can't go wrong with any of them. If you like the atmosphere of being on the water while you're
Mhm,
eating,
mhm.
then Admiral Jack's, Captain Lou's, the Idler, any of those restaurants are great. So that's probably for restaurants, none of them are really bad. Their food is really good in South Haven. As far as What was the other thing you said for
We're
favorite?
talking about food and the festivities, the activities, because you mentioned there's a club in South Haven. Like I was
Well,
there for I didn't know that there was a club.
it may not be the club that Kalamazoo's used to, but
Kalamazoo doesn't
it's a
have any clubs
yeah.
anymore. They lost their
They,
they
they
lost their mojo a little while
this is a
ago.
different club. It's Captain Lou's. It's a bar that's right on the water, but in the back they have a nightclub.
Oh,
So on
really?
weekends it turns into a dancing club that goes until midnight, one, whatever time it is. I'm too old to do that stuff, so I don't know, but
Okay.
it's there. Yeah, it's a club.
Because you were mentioning like the locals, and then you were mentioning like the vacationers. So, talking about like the food and that and different things that they have there. Also, they have great parks.
Yes,
You just talk about the parks a little bit.
Stanley Johnson Park, which is right by the river, and then also can see the lake and stuff. That's a big one. Where a lot of the festivals they have arts stuff like that, and they'll always have vendors set up out there. But then there's Kids Corner Park, which is just redone.
Oh, really?
It's brand new park. I mean, the ground's still there, but they just took out all the old equipment,
Mm-hmm.
but brand new kids equipment out there. But there's also, Van Buren State Park is out there. There's, Deer Lick Park, which is a dog friendly beach that's
Mm.
where a lot of people go rock hunting. I guess a lot of sea glass pops up there. I'm not much of a rock guy, but that a lot of them go there for that.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, I had no idea about the dog park. I think was there the dog park there when I was there?
there's not. This isn't a dog park. It's a dog friendly beach.
Dog
But
friendly
I'm
beach,
glad you
because
bring up dog park because it was just passed.
okay,
A big group came in and invested money, and there's a huge dog park going
okay,
in town that
okay,
is going to be next level.
okay.
They said it's going to be open by May.
All right, because you also got the concerts and the bands.
Riverfront concert series
Okay,
on Thursday nights. I think it starts probably mid June, early June. But it's a band that comes out there free concert, and then of course during the festival. I mean, the National Blueberry Festival is a big one in South Haven. We have
okay,
a Harbor Fest, and there's a lot. It seems like every week there's some kind of festival going on. But there's always concerts on weekends for that. But yeah, the concert series on Thursday nights, and plus we have an ice skating rink down there
okay.
now. And so ice skating rink in the wintertime, it's a farmer's market in the summertime.
Yep.
They just built a new like a fire pit out there, so you can go out and warm up with fire, go ice skating, stuff like that. It's fun.
Okay. So we got the parks. I know you guys have the museum as well.
Maritime Museum, yeah.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. Have you been?
Yes, many
Okay.
times. The museum is where you go, and they've actually got a replica ship
Hmm.
that you can go out and do a sunset cruise. Or actually, it doesn't have to be sunset; you can do it any time. But all the people dress up in the old style, like sailors and stuff like that, and they do the ropes and they do all the stuff with the sails. And you go out there for a tour. You have to get on that at the Maritime Museum. The Maritime Museum was just refurbished not long ago, so it's all brand new. It is a fantastic thing. You walk through the museum, see all the history, and then you can also go outside and walk along the docks and see different boats, stuff like that. So it's a neat thing.
And you can, there's what is it? You can not, can you rent a boat or
Yeah.
be able to be taken out like or taken out through to Lake Michigan?
So you can do a couple things. I mean,
Okay.
like that boat, you can just hop on it and they drive you out there. There's also one called the Sunsetter and stuff like that. Different boats that have a captain that will take you out and do cruises.
Okay.
You can also, from one of the areas over there, you can rent boats from them and take them out yourself. So
Okay.
whether it's a pontoon or a jet ski or boats, you can do all that and take it out in the water and have fun.
You ever done those?
Yeah,
Okay. Because I know you like the boats.
yeah. Friend of mine's got a nice boat, so I typically don't do that because I have access to one anytime. But I've done it. Yeah.
What about fishing?
There's a lot of fishing charters out there.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are hard to come by. So
Mm,
you have to plan around those probably months ahead of time. Yeah,
really?
because it's hard to get in those for
Okay.
sure.
Do they like guarantee you a fish
I've never been on one.
and you
I would
can't
say
catch a
no.
fish?
Yeah, so I used to love to fish. I haven't been for years, but it's I don't think they would guarantee that. That'd be a tough one.
I think we were out there one time and you were showing me where people can like if they catch the fish, they can like clean the fish and
Yeah,
everything like but it was like on the back side. It was like tucked away somewhere. Like you wouldn't just see it if you're
it's
just a
right on the
tourist.
riverside, so it's basically where your boat launch is. So where
Okay.
you're going to go out there, there's a fish cleaning station with bathrooms and all that stuff right there. Yeah.
And then you also have the bike trail or the Cowhaven Trail that
Calhaven and Van Buren Trail are both there.
okay.
There's a skate park for skateboarders.
Okay.
Bikers go out and take it out there too. So yeah, a little bit of everything around there. A big thing right now is I don't know if I can name drop this, but Lake Arvesta Farms has just added a big thing out there, which is a uh like a what do you want theme park kind of thing. But they
Oh,
have
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's a
Name
restaurant.
drop again so
Yeah,
we can hear that one
it's
more
Lake Arvesta Farms.
time. Okay.
Guaranteed, your kids will love it. But it's basically pit that they dug out and made a man-made lake out of it. But you can do like I don't know what it's called. You grab a hold of like a bar, and then this thing will pull you around the water so you learn how to ski. And they got jumps and stuff like that. But they have putt putt. They have a beach, so they've with inflatables. But the restaurant, and they got a disc golf course. They're adding a concert venue out there now, so it's a big deal. People love it out there. It is a fun. You spend a whole day with your whole family out there and just do have all kinds of fun.
See, South Haven's like a hidden gem.
Oh, it is, and this place is just growing. I remember when it was just a empty piece of land 8 9 years ago, and
Okay.
now it's grown to this. So yeah, that's a fun thing. But Gingerman Raceway Park is out there. Gingerman Raceway. It's a great place to watch races. They
Mm.
have a big thing called oh, what is the name of it? My mind just completely went away. Grid Life. It's for the little cars that run around tracks are real fast. You know, they get out there and do a whole weekend thing. They but races pretty much every weekend out there. So that's fun time too.
What about the wineries and the tours? Like, how was that?
There's a few wineries around there.
Okay.
When I say a few, probably 10. But you know,
Okay.
there's a lot of wineries. There's breweries. You know,
Oh,
there's all kinds of anywhere, and they have tours. You know, you call the company and say I want to do a wine tour, and they have this bus that will come and pick you up and just take you around different places.
do you all provide arranging those type of tours or different things like that, or
We're working on that right now.
okay,
It's harder than you think because of our integrated software system that everything has to run through. So to be able to find a company that has to do that, house payment's going to be made. So yes, they are out there, and if somebody asks me, I will typically just guide them to the people to go do it instead of doing it through us.
okay,
Uh, but it's in the works right now of trying to establish that as something that we can do as an add-on.
okay. Is there like any ways if someone wants to surprise somebody with like an engagement, are you all able to kind of coach somebody along those for like surprises or
To an
anything?
extent, you know me, I don't have much of an imagination. So if somebody says, "Hey, I want to propose to my wife," I'm like,
Don't say that, Chris, because I know your wife is like,
she knows, trust me. You know, I'll be like, "Hey, we can throw a bottle of wine in there and be ready for you." So we've done little things like that, like
okay,
provided a bottle of wine with a bucket and some candles, things like that. But as far as the whole experience, I'm like, you know, I'll leave that to somebody who knows a little bit more about that stuff than me. But yeah.
okay. And what about if you don't necessarily want to go the rental options because South Haven does have hotels,
Mhm.
and that's a little bit easier. Would you say as far as you just want a one night or just kind of can accommodate?
That's a good question because yeah, in the city of South Haven, and I think there's probably a regulation with a lot of areas around that you can't rent for one night at a house.
Right, right, right.
It
I
has to
agree.
be a hotel.
Okay,
But when you're talking about cost and everything, when you're getting up there, it's usually going to be the same if you get 2 3 4 nights to rent a hotel as it would a home.
mm,
So
mm,
my opinion is I'd rather stay in a house than a hotel if it's going to cost about the same.
okay,
So, you know, it's all in what you want. If it's just a quick, hey, I just want to come in here and stay maybe 1 or 2 nights, hotels are fine, you
okay.
know, and there's, 5 or 6 of them in South Haven to choose from. So you have plenty of options. But uh, definitely, I don't think I could stay in a hotel for a week. I know that. So it's got to be a house or a condo. And we have some great condos that have indoor pools and stuff too. So, you know,
Yeah, because I remember you all. There was a converted high school.
yep.
How about that? You guys have
Oh, that's great.
properties in there?
Yeah, we do, and it's inside that place. It's called Central Office Condos, but it's old school that used to be the high school back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Condos in there now, but there's 2 movie theaters.
Mm.
There is a gym, hot tub, pool, and a pool. It's all inside, but they have big doors that will open up in the summertime, obviously, to enjoy the weather that comes in. But then a big area outside, like a decked area where there's grills set up and all that. So those are very popular rentals for
Okay.
sure, year round. Like we get them even in the wintertime because of the indoor pool and hot
Mm.
tub.
I remember that was probably the most difficult one that kept giving me calls about how to use their heat and air conditioning.
Oh, really?
At that
Okay.
time,
Yeah.
that was probably when it was new.
Yeah.
It not that it was new, but like the technology was so new to some people who
Yeah.
are just used to like the normal. Like you said, some you have to like program and just preset
Yep.
and all that other fancy stuff.
Yeah,
So
they got some fancy ones for sure.
I
So,
know.
yeah, no
So
doubt.
that was definitely like one of those places that came across a lot with that.
Sure.
Anything else, Chris? Are we
I think that's it. If you ever have any questions about short-term rentals on if it's a good idea or not, reach out to me.
what's your number?
765. Where am I supposed to look at
You
here?
can look anywhere.
765-894-0888 is my cell. If I don't know the number, I won't answer it. I'll be honest with you. Text me or you call, leave a voicemail. I will call you back. But
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just give me an idea of, hey, I'm looking in this area, what are your thoughts? And here's a 123 Main Street I'm looking at. What do you think? And I'll be more than happy. I don't charge for that service. It's just something I do for people and tell you what I think on what the comps would be in that area. So
What about email or website?
yeah, my email, I don't really have a website, so to
Okay.
speak, but my email, you can use my last name, Jordan Agencies at Gmail. You can reach me there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to getting back and coming to visit because I didn't make it to South Haven once last year. And usually, and even though I'm lactose intolerant, you guys have how many ice cream places there?
At least two, probably seven, but
And then Dairy
it's
Queen, the infamous Dairy
Dairy
Queen.
Queen's not there anymore.
Stop it.
No, it's sold. Yeah, it's not there. It's called Kitchen Tribes. It's a
What?
kind of a cool thing. They have the restaurant, and right outside where that parking lot was, they turned into a food truck place. So it's all the same. You order your food. There's picnic tables, and you can order different things from different food trucks that are sitting out there.
See how
Kind of
long
a
it's
neat
been
deal.
since I've been in South
Yeah, that was
Haven?
like 2 years ago.
See, I told you I have not been. I need to get back. That was a great
Slacking.
drive, even just as looking at the apples and then going back and forth
Yeah.
between the different of fruits and vegetable farms and the was the Mr. Pumpkin and all
Oh
of
yeah.
that good stuff. And the other thing that I love that when I worked in South Haven was that you all have a meat market and you have
Yes.
the butcher shop. And I know for my mother, she's like, I don't like anything, nothing tastes great. And I get it because a lot of things are like hydro grown. So even though you're like growing your vegetables in
Yep.
your kitchen or in your living room, it's not getting dirt.
Sure.
And dirt is kind of the stuff that makes your vegetables taste good and really have the nutrients and
Yep.
vitamins. And the same with as far as like when you do eat meat, not for my vegans and vegetarians, but for those of people who are still meat eaters, to know that the animals that are going to those shops have actually been on a farm and they were
Yep.
not mishandled, they weren't mistreated. Like those farmers love their cattle or love their poultry or whatever they have you,
Yep.
and you can taste the difference. Like you literally can tell that this cow was eating grass versus only corn
Yeah.
throughout its duration, and it actually had a chance to grow.
And I know the place you're talking about because I told you to go there and get some food.
Yeah, and
It
I
was
was
Bob's Processing, by the way.
yeah,
I did not get paid for this advertisement, but Bob's Processing.
yeah, me neither. And
They're fantastic.
they are
Yeah.
fantastic. The people are great.
Yeah.
And I was making a trip up there every time I was on my way back home. Like, I remember when I got some steaks from my mother and I didn't say anything. And my uncle came over. He like, man, this is some great steak. And they're like, what's the difference about this?
Yeah.
And then I told him I got it from the meat market. So I'm always advocating, like the farmer's market, always
Yes.
advocating for, actually local, homegrown in that capacity. And you can taste the difference. You can feel the love and you're supporting local businesses, especially with the economy being the way it is. Like put the money back so that we can sustain.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, we're not necessarily promoting anyone in particular, but the apple orchards and just the
Local.
beautiful
Yep.
views of driving because it's a straight shot between Kalamazoo and South
Oh, it's
Haven.
easy. Yeah.
It's what highway is that again?
43. It's what, 31 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Not even that far. So
You
yeah,
hit the
it's
rock
nice,
and
easy
you don't even
drive.
know you're there.
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. Well, Chris, thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being
Yeah.
here. Like I said, unless there's anything else that we haven't touched on that you want to tell me or enlighten me or I should know about or that you want Kalamazoo to know about other than your golf game and
Oh, other than that, go Purdue. I'm actually from Indiana, so I have to say
really, you were almost gonna be invited back.
that.
I'm pretty sure. Look, my people are
They
leaving
just
now.
they all left. They're done.
Done. It's cool.
Yeah. He lost me.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure what to Purdue.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for being here. God bless you. And again, thank you for my opportunity, for
Sure.
giving me a start because I came in there just as green as these chairs when I first came into the insurance industry and you said yes.
Yeah.
And you taught me everything I know just about. And
Yeah.
believe it or not, I think I'm pretty good at what I do.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a good teacher.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you to the Public Media Network. Thank you for everybody who's taking their time to watch the show today. Happy New Year's. May everyone's New Year's be safe, blessed, prosperous, happy, successful so that you can come and buy your vacation property, your second, third vacation property, what it's going to be like to live in your vacation property and make those decisions for yourself and your family. And so thank you. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. And
Thank you.
we're out.